In the early 20th century, Europe stood at the center of the world, powerful, confident, and divided by hidden tensions. Nations competed for power, territory, and influence, unaware that a single spark would ignite a war so destructive that it would reshape history forever. This conflict, later known as World War I, was not just a battle between armies. It was a turning point that changed politics, borders, and the very identity of Europe. Before the war, Europe was ruled by mighty empires such as the British Empire, German Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Ottoman Empire. These empires believed they were unstoppable, yet beneath the surface, nationalism, military alliances, and rivalries were slowly pushing the continent toward disaster. The war began in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, an event that triggered a chain reaction across Europe. What followed was a total war, where entire nations were mobilized for destruction. Millions of soldiers marched into battle with the belief that the war would be short and glorious, but instead they faced the horrors of trench warfare, machine guns, and poison gas. The battlefields of France and Belgium became symbols of endless suffering, where courage and fear existed side by side. This war introduced modern warfare, changing how battles were fought forever and showing the terrifying power of industrial weapons. As the war dragged on, the human cost became unimaginable. Over 16 million people lost their lives, and countless others were left wounded or traumatized. Entire cities were destroyed, economies collapsed, and families were torn apart. For the first time in history, civilians were deeply affected, proving that war was no longer limited to the battlefield. The role of women also changed dramatically, as they entered factories and workplaces to support the war effort, reshaping social structures across Europe. These changes would permanently alter society, long after the guns fell silent. By 1918, the war finally came to an end, but Europe was no longer the same. The once powerful empires collapsed, including the German, Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires. New nations were created, borders were redrawn, and old monarchies disappeared. The Treaty of Versailles, meant to secure peace, instead planted the seeds of resentment and revenge, especially in Germany. Harsh punishments and economic pressure created anger that would later lead to another devastating conflict. Europe had won the war, but lost its stability. The political landscape of Europe was transformed forever. Democracy, communism, and fascism emerged as competing ideologies, each promising a better future but often delivering more conflict. The war weakened Europe's global dominance, allowing new powers like the United States to rise. Economically, many European countries struggled with inflation, debt, and unemployment, creating social unrest and political extremism. This period of instability showed that the war's impact extended far beyond the battlefield and into everyday life. Perhaps the greatest lesson of this war was the realization that unchecked ambition and blind nationalism could destroy entire civilizations. Europe learned, at a terrible cost, that modern war was no longer heroic, it was brutal, impersonal, and catastrophic. The war changed how nations viewed peace, diplomacy, and international cooperation, leading to the creation of organizations aimed at preventing future conflicts. Yet, the scars of World War I remained deeply embedded in European history. In the end, World War I was more than just a war. It was a historical earthquake that reshaped Europe's borders, societies, and future. It marked the end of an old world ruled by empires and the beginning of a new, uncertain era. The echoes of this conflict can still be felt today, reminding us that the choices of the past continue to shape the present. This was truly the war that changed the history of Europe forever.